"Are you married?" the maid asked. The CEO smiled and said, "Not yet, but I will be tomorrow. Quick question before we start. Where are you watching from today? Let us know in the comments." The black stretch limousine crunched over the pristine white gravel of the driveway, winding its way through acres of manicured lawns. Inside, Daniel Bradford sat in the shadows. He was 30 years old, but today, he felt 100. He stared out the tinted window, watching the familiar oak trees roll by. He hadn't been back to the estate in 5 years, not since he left for London to escape the suffocating pressure of his father's expectations. But escape was no longer an option. His phone buzzed. Another message from his father, William Bradford. "Meeting with the board at 5 p.m. Don't be late. Wear the gray suit, and shave that beard. You look like a castaway." Daniel sighed, turning off the phone. He ran a hand over the scruff on his jaw. He liked the beard. It was one of the few things in his life that was his own. He was here to take the throne, to become the CEO of Bradford Enterprises. But the only reason he had returned wasn't for the title. It was for her, his mother. She had passed away 3 weeks ago while he was stuck in a merger meeting in Zurich. He hadn't made it back in time to say goodbye. That guilt was a stone in his chest that made it hard to breathe. The car stopped in front of the massive stone mansion. It looked less like a home and more like a fortress. "We're here, Mr. Bradford," the driver announced. "Thanks, Jerry," Daniel murmured. He stepped out. The heat of the Virginia summer hit him. The front door opened. A line of staff stood waiting, stiff and terrified. "Welcome home, sir," the butler intoned. Daniel flinched. He hated this. The pomp. The circumstance. "Is my father here?" Daniel asked, loosening his tie. "Mr. William is at the golf club, sir. He expects you in his study at 4. "Good," Daniel said. "I'm not to be disturbed until then." He didn't go inside the main house. He couldn't face the empty halls yet. He couldn't face the portrait of his mother hanging in the foyer. Instead, he walked around the side of the house. He needed air. He needed the one place where he had ever felt like a human being, not a corporate asset. He headed for the East Garden, his mother's sanctuary. The East Garden, 2:15 p.m. It was worse than he expected. The East Garden, once a riot of colors and scents, looked tired. Weeds were creeping into the rose beds. The hydrangeas were thirsty. It wasn't dead, but it was neglected. It seemed the estate staff had stopped caring the moment his mother took her last breath. Daniel felt a surge of anger. He took off his expensive suit jacket and tossed it onto a stone bench. He ripped off his tie. He unbuttoned his collar and rolled up his sleeves, exposing his forearms. He wasn't dressed for gardening. His Italian leather shoes were worth more than a car, but he didn't care. He walked over to a particularly overgrown rose bush. A thorny vine was choking the life out of a delicate white bud. "I've got you," Daniel whispered. He reached out to pull the weed. A thorn sliced his thumb. A drop of bright red blood welled up. He didn't flinch. The pain felt grounding, real. "Hey, you!" A voice rang out, sharp and breathless. Daniel froze. He turned around. Standing at the garden gate was a girl. She was messy. That was his first thought. She wore oversized denim overalls stained with green and brown earth, a white t-shirt that had seen better days, and heavy work boots. Her hair, a chaotic mass of chestnut curls, was tied up in a bandana, but escaping in every direction. She was holding a massive bag of fertilizer on one shoulder like it was a feather pillow, and she looked furious. "I've been waiting for 40 minutes, she shouted, marching toward him. Daniel blinked. "Excuse me?" "Don't excuse me," she huffed, dropping the bag of fertilizer at his feet with a heavy thud. Dust puffed up, coating Daniel's shiny shoes. "The agency said you'd be here at 1 o'clock. It's 2:15, and look at you." She looked him up and down, her hazel eyes narrowing. "You're wearing dress pants? Seriously?" Daniel looked down at his trousers, then back at her. She thought he was the help. He opened his mouth to correct her. "I'm Daniel Bradford. I own this dirt you're standing on." But the words died in his throat. If he told her who he was, she would change. She would stiffen. Call him sir, and look at the floor like the staff out front. He didn't want that. He was so tired of being sir. Daniel stammered. "My laundry machine broke. These were the only clean pants I had." The girl rolled her eyes. "Great. Another city boy who thinks gardening is just playing in the dirt. Listen, I don't care about your fashion choices, as long as you can work. What's your name?" Daniel hesitated. "Jay," he said. It was his middle name. Okay, Jay. I'm Lily. I'm the head gardener for this section, and we have a crisis. She pointed to the rose bushes. These are Madame Hardy roses. They are heritage blooms. Senior Bradford loved them more than her jewelry, and if we don't prune them and fertilize them before the rain comes tonight, we lose the whole bed. She thrust a pair of heavy shears into his chest. He caught them instinctively. Well? Lily put her hands on her hips. Are you going to stand there looking pretty? Or are you going to help me save these roses? Daniel looked at the shears. He looked at Lily, who was wiping sweat from her forehead with a dirty hand, leaving a smudge of soil on her cheek. She looked so alive, so passionate about something so simple. A small smile tugged at the corner of Daniel's mouth. I'm digging, he said. 1 hour later. For the next hour, Daniel Bradford, heir to $1 billion empire, sweated like a pig. Lily was a tyrant, a small, curly-haired tyrant. Not like that. You're cutting too close to the node. More mulch. Spread it even. Jay, if you step on that tulip, I will bury you under it. Daniel obeyed every command, and surprisingly, he was enjoying himself. The physical labor felt good. It cleared his head. The sun on his back, the smell of damp earth, the ache in his muscles. It pushed the grief and the corporate stress to the back of his mind. He was on his knees, digging a trench for irrigation, his white shirt now soaked with sweat and stained with mud. His expensive trousers were ruined. He didn't care. Okay, break time, Lily announced. She flopped down onto the grass under the shade of the willow tree. She pulled a thermos out of her bag and poured 2 plastic cups of iced tea. Here, she offered one to him. Hydrate. You look like you're about to pass out, city boy. Daniel took the cup. He sat down next to her, careful not to get too close. He smelled of expensive cologne mixed with sweat. She smelled of sunscreen and lavender. Thanks, he said, taking a sip. It was sweet and cold. The best thing he had tasted in years. You're not terrible, Lily admitted, looking at the pruned rose bushes. You're slow, and you clearly have soft hands. But you listen. That's rare. Daniel looked at his hands. They were blistered. I like this place, Daniel said softly, looking at the garden. Me too, Lily smiled. Her face softened, losing the bossy edge. It's the only part of the estate that feels real. Mrs. Bradford used to come here every evening. Daniel's heart clenched. Did you know her? Yeah, Lily nodded. She picked at a blade of grass. I started working here 2 years ago. Most rich ladies, they treat you like furniture. But she was different. She knew the name of every flower. She used to bring me cookies. Lily's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them away quickly. She told me once that this garden was her escape, from her husband, from the business. She said her son used to play hide and seek in those bushes over there. Daniel looked at the bushes. He remembered. He could almost hear his mother's laugh. Ready or not, here I come, Danny. She missed him, Lily continued, unaware she was breaking his heart. Her son, he lives in Europe or something. She was always checking her phone, hoping he would call. Daniel looked down, hiding his face. The guilt was unbearable. Maybe he was busy, Daniel said, his voice thick. Too busy for his mom? Lily scoffed. Please, he's probably just another arrogant suit like his father, chasing money while the things that matter wither away. She gestured to the roses. That's why I work so hard on this garden, Jay. It's the only thing she left behind. I want it to be perfect, even if her idiot son doesn't care enough to come visit it. Daniel swallowed hard. He wanted to defend himself. He wanted to say, I did care. I care so much it hurts. But he couldn't, because she was right. He hadn't been there. I think, Daniel started, clearing his throat. I think he would appreciate what you're doing, if he saw it. Lily shrugged. I don't do it for him, I do it for her. She checked her cheap wristwatch. Crap, it's almost 4. The prince is arriving today. The prince? Daniel Bradford, the heir. The staff is terrified. Rumor has it he's even colder than his father. I need to get out of here before he starts roaming the grounds and firing people for breathing too loud. She stood up, dusting off her overalls. Same time tomorrow, Jay. We still need to tackle the hydrangeas. Daniel looked up at her. He had a board meeting at 9 a.m., a press conference at noon, a lunch with investors at 2 p.m. I'll be here, Daniel promised. Don't wear the dress pants next time. Lily winked. You look ridiculous. She turned and walked away toward the servants' exit. Daniel watched her go. He sat there for a moment longer in the silence of the garden. Then, he stood up. He picked up his ruined jacket. He wiped the mud from his face, though it just smeared it. More. He walked back toward the main house. As he crossed the threshold, his posture changed. His shoulders squared. His face hardened into a mask of indifference. Jay the gardener was gone. Daniel Bradford was back. But for the first time in 5 years, he had a reason to wake up tomorrow. 4:15 p.m. Daniel walked into his father's office. The air in there was always 5 degrees colder than the rest of the house. The smell of aged leather and expensive cigars was suffocating. William Bradford sat behind a massive mahogany desk, signing papers without looking up. He looked like a statue carved from granite, hard, immovable, and impenetrable. "You're late," William said, his voice dry as sandpaper. 15 minutes. "Traffic was bad," Daniel lied, hiding his scratched, dirt-stained hands in the pockets of his ruined dress pants. William finally looked up. His gaze swept over his son with disdain, stopping on the wrinkled shirt and the mud stain on the hem of his trousers. "What happened to you? You look like you wrestled a tractor." "Just getting some air, Dad," William scoffed. "Air? You are 30 years old, Daniel. Kneeling in the grass won't bring your mother back, and it certainly won't make the stock price go up." Daniel felt his jaw clench. It was always like this. Pain was a weakness. Profit was the cure. "Let's get to business." William clasped his hands together. "The merger with Thorne Industries. It's almost closed. But Charles Thorne is a traditional man. He wants stability. He wants to see a united family." "I'm here, aren't I?" Daniel retorted. "I took the job. The job is temporary if the shareholders don't trust you. They see a single man who spent 5 years running away to Europe. They need to see a family man." William slid a blue folder across the desk. "The Bradford Foundation Gala is tomorrow night. Vanessa Thorne will be there. You will be formally introduced." "I've known Vanessa since I was 5, Dad. She threw sand in my eyes. She grew up, and she is the perfect heiress. The announcement will be made at 10 p.m. Daniel felt his blood run cold. "What announcement?" "The engagement, of course." Daniel laughed, a sound devoid of humor. "You're joking. I am not getting married for a merger. That is medieval." William didn't laugh. He stood up, walking to the window that overlooked the garden Daniel had just left. "Your mother loved that company, Daniel. She gave her life for that legacy. If the merger fails, the stock plummets. Her life's work turns to dust. Do you want to be responsible for destroying Eleanor Bradford's memory?" It was a low blow. Surgical. William knew exactly where it hurt. Daniel looked at the blue folder. Vanessa Thorne. A cold, calculating woman raised to be a corporate trophy. Exactly like his father wanted. "Do I have a choice?" Daniel asked, his voice raspy. "You are a Bradford," William said, turning his back. "We don't have choices. We have duties. Be presentable tomorrow. And shave that beard." 3 days later, 5:30 p.m. The week passed in a schizophrenic blur. From 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Daniel was the ruthless CEO. He fired incompetent directors, analyzed spreadsheets, and endured endless meetings where everyone looked at him expecting him to fail. But at 5:15 p.m., he raced to his room, changed his Armani suit for old jeans and a white t-shirt, and snuck down the service stairs to the East Garden. There, he was just Jay. Jay didn't talk about mergers. He talked about soil pH and aphids. And he listened to Lily. "You're digging like the dirt offended you," Lily commented, watching Daniel attack the tulip bed with a shovel. Daniel paused, wiping sweat from his forehead with his arm. "Tough day," he grumbled. "The boss?" Lily asked, pruning a nearby rose bush. "The boss's boss. The big boss." "Ah, Mr. William." Lily made a face. "That man has ice in his veins. I saw him fire the housekeeper last week because the soup was lukewarm." "Who does that?" Daniel Howe chuckled. It was strange to hear people talk about his father without the filter of fear. "And the son?" Daniel risked asking, his heart beating faster. "This Daniel guy? Have you seen him?" Lily paused her shears in midair. "Not yet. He must be locked up in the ivory tower. Rumor has it he's just like his father, only younger and more lost." "Lost?" "Yeah. The staff says he walks the hallways at night, that he doesn't talk to anyone. Must be sad, right? Having all that money and having no one to really talk to." She looked at Daniel J. with those hazel eyes that seemed to see right through his soul. "Lucky us, right, Jay?" She smiled. "We're broke, We make minimum wage, but at least we have the sunset and these roses." Daniel looked at her. The afternoon sun hit her dirt-smudged face, illuminating her rebellious curls. She was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen, more beautiful than any model, any heiress, any piece of art he had in his office. For a second, he wanted to tell the truth. "I am him, Lily. I am the sad guy in the tower. Save me." But he couldn't. If he told her, the spell would break. She would look at him with the same contempt she had for the Bradfords. "Yeah," Daniel agreed, his voice soft. "Lucky us." He sat on the grass next to her, his shoulder brushed against hers. She didn't pull away. The heat of her body seemed to burn through the thin fabric of his t-shirt. "You know," Lily said, looking at the sky turning orange, "my mom used to say that gardens are places of healing. If you nurture something alive, you learn to nurture yourself." Your mom sounds wise. She was. She died last year. Daniel turned his face quickly. "I'm so sorry, Lily. It's okay. It hurts less now, but that's why I understand Mrs. Bradford. Grief. It's like a weed. If you don't tend to it, it takes over everything." Daniel felt a solitary tear escape. He wiped it quickly, hoping she wouldn't see. But she did. Lily reached out. Her calloused, dirt-stained fingers touched his face with infinite gentleness. "Hey," she whispered. "Are you okay, Jay? You seem heavy today." Her touch was his undoing. Tomorrow was the gala. Tomorrow he would be sold to Vanessa Thorne. Tomorrow this double life would end because he wouldn't have time for the garden anymore. He would be property of the shareholders. He looked at Lily. He wanted to kiss her. He wanted to run away with her to a cabin where last names didn't exist. "Lily," he started. "What is it?" she asked, her eyes full of genuine concern. That was when she asked the question, the innocent question that broke his heart. She noticed the deep sadness, the resignation in his shoulders. "Jay, do you have someone? At home?" She bit her lip, hesitant. "Are you married?" The world stopped. The wind in the trees ceased. Daniel looked at the woman who made him feel human for the first time in decades. He thought of Vanessa, of the merger contract, of the announcement tomorrow at 10 p.m. He couldn't lie, but the truth was too cruel. He smiled, a sad, broken smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Not yet," Daniel whispered, his voice raspy with contained emotion. "But I will be tomorrow." Lily blinked. Her face fell. The light in her eyes dimmed a little. She misunderstood. She thought he was talking about a girlfriend, a happy love. "Oh," she said, pulling her hand back as if she had been burned. "Wow, congratulations. That's great, Jay." She forced a painful smile. "Who is the lucky girl?" Daniel looked at the black dirt under his fingernails. "Someone my father chose," he said, bitterness leaking into every syllable. "It's complicated." Lily laughed nervously, trying to hide her own disappointment. "Arranged marriage? What is this, the 18th century? You must love her a lot if you're going to accept that." "It has nothing to do with love, Lily," Daniel said, standing up abruptly. He couldn't stay there anymore, lying to her, seeing the hurt in her eyes. "It has to do with duty." He wiped his hands on his pants. "I won't be able to come tomorrow," he said, his back to her. "I have a commitment." "The wedding," Lily concluded, her voice small. "Yeah, the wedding." He started walking toward the house, feeling like he was walking to the guillotine. "Jay," Lily called out. He stopped but didn't turn around. "I hope you're happy," she shouted. "Really? You deserve someone who looks at you the way you look at these roses." Daniel closed his eyes. A sharp pain shot through his chest. "Goodbye, Lily," he whispered to the wind. The next day, 9 p.m., the mansion was unrecognizable. Where there was once silence and dust, there were now crystal chandeliers, orchestral music, and 500 people drinking champagne that cost more than Lily's annual salary. The main garden was decorated with thousands of white fairy lights. Lily was there, but not as a guest. She was hidden behind a giant arrangement of lilies, wearing her black service uniform, adjusting the flowers at the last minute. The landscaping company had summoned her to ensure nothing wilted during the party. "Look at this," whispered Marta, another employee next to Lily. "They say the cake has 6 tiers. Rich people are ridiculous." "Yeah," Lily agreed without enthusiasm. Her mind was on Jay. She had spent the day crying. How stupid she was. falling in love with the gardener's assistant who was getting married to another woman. Not yet, but I will be. Tomorrow. The phrase echoed in her head. Attention, ladies and gentlemen. The master of ceremonies' voice boomed through the speakers. Please direct your gaze to the main staircase. The music stopped. The crowd went silent. Lily stretched on her tiptoes to see. She was curious to see this Daniel Bradford, the Ice Prince. It is with great honor that I present the new CEO of Bradford Enterprises, Mr. Daniel Bradford. The balcony doors opened. A man appeared at the top of the marble staircase. He wore an impeccable black tuxedo. His hair was slicked back, his beard shaved, revealing a strong, aristocratic jawline. He looked like a Greek god carved from ice. But Lily didn't need to guess. She knew that walk. She knew the way he tugged at his collar when he was nervous. The beard was gone, but the eyes were the same. The eyes that had looked at her with such vulnerability in the dirt. It wasn't a stranger. It was Jay. The realization hit her like a physical blow. Jay wasn't the assistant. He wasn't poor. He was Daniel Bradford, the man she had insulted, the man she had trusted, the man who owned the very ground she was standing on. No, Lily whispered, her hands shaking so hard the flower vase she was adjusting rattled. Please, no. And his companion, the announcer continued, oblivious to the CEO's silent panic. The stunning Miss Vanessa Thorne, a blonde woman, tall and incredibly beautiful in a blood-red dress, appeared next to Daniel. She linked her arm, through his possessively smiling for the cameras. Daniel didn't smile. He was pale, staring fixedly at Lily. Lily looked at his tuxedo, at the woman on his arm, at the luxury surrounding him. Not yet, but I will be tomorrow. It wasn't a humble girlfriend, it was Vanessa Thorne. And he wasn't Jay, the gardener with the broken washing machine. He was Daniel Bradford, the owner of everything, the man she had insulted, with whom she had shared her deepest secrets, the man she had. The betrayal hit her like a physical punch. He had lied. He had laughed at her. He must have found it hilarious to play poor with the naive gardener while planning his royal wedding in the castle. Hot tears filled Lily's eyes. Daniel made a move to pull his arm away from Vanessa. He took a step forward, his mouth forming her name, Lily. But Lily didn't wait. She dropped the pruning shears on the floor. The metallic clang was drowned out by the music starting again. She turned her back and ran. She ran away from the lights, the champagne, and the liar who had stolen her heart only to crush it under his Italian shoes. Lily! Daniel shouted, his voice cutting through the etiquette of the event. The crowd gasped. Vanessa grabbed his arm tightly, her nails digging into the fabric. What are you doing? Vanessa hissed, the smile frozen on her face. The cameras are here. Don't you dare. Daniel looked at the darkness of the garden where Lily had disappeared. Then he looked at his father, who was watching him with a look of lethal warning. He was trapped. The music swelled, a waltz designed to drown out any awkwardness. Daniel stood frozen at the bottom of the stairs. His heart was hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. He wanted to run. He wanted to chase the girl in the dirty work boots who had just vanished into the night. But a hand clamped down on his shoulder. It was William. Smile, his father hissed into his ear. The governor is watching. Do not make a scene. Vanessa pulled on his arm, her nails sharp. Dance with me, Daniel, she commanded through gritted teeth. You look like you've seen a ghost. Who was that servant girl? Daniel looked at Vanessa, really looked at her. She was flawless. Her makeup was perfect. Her dress was worth a luxury car and her smile was practiced. She was everything he was supposed to want, and she made him feel absolutely nothing. She's not a servant, Daniel said coldly. She's the only real thing in this entire room. Vanessa laughed, a brittle sound. You're delirious. Come on, the photographers are waiting. She dragged him onto the dance floor. Daniel moved like a puppet. He spun her. He dipped her. Flashbulbs popped, blinding him. But all he could see was Lily's face. The betrayal in her hazel eyes. The way she had dropped the shears. I lied to her. He hadn't meant to. It started as a misunderstanding. But he had let it grow because he was selfish. He wanted the peace she gave him. He wanted Jay to exist even if it was a lie. Now Jay was dead, and Daniel Bradford was alone in a room full of 500 people. The next morning, 6 a.m., Daniel didn't sleep. As soon as the sun cracked the horizon, he stripped off his tuxedo. He didn't put on his Jay clothes. He put on his suit, the armor. He walked down to the East Garden. He hoped irrationally that she would be there, that she would be pruning the roses, waiting to yell at him for being late. She was there, but she wasn't pruning. Lily was kneeling by the tool shed, shoving her trowels and gloves into a battered cardboard box. Her eyes were puffy, red-rimmed from crying, but her jaw was set in granite. "Lily," Daniel said. She flinched. She didn't look up. She just packed faster. "Lily, please, let me explain." "There's nothing to explain, sir." She spat the title like a curse word. "You're the CEO. I'm the help. You had your fun playing commoner. Now let me work." It wasn't a game. Daniel stepped closer, ignoring the mud on his polished shoes. "I didn't tell you because you treated me like a person, not a bank account, not a legacy, just a guy." Lily stood up. She whirled around, clutching a hand rake. "You lied to my face for a week," she shouted. Her voice cracked. "I told you about my mother. I told you I was lonely. I told you I hated rich people who treat us like toys. And you just sat there and nodded." "I wanted to tell you," Daniel pleaded. "Yesterday, in the garden, I tried." "Is that when you told me you were getting married?" Lily laughed bitterly. "Not yet, but I will be tomorrow." "Was that the joke? Were you laughing inside, thinking how stupid the little gardener was for feeling sorry for you?" "No." Daniel grabbed her shoulders. "I was miserable, Lily. I am miserable. That engagement, I don't want it. My father forced it." Lily looked at his hands on her shoulders. Then she looked up at his face. "You're a 30-year-old man, Daniel," she said softly. "Nobody forces you to do anything. You choose it. You chose the suit. You chose the lie. You chose her." She pulled away from his grip. "I can't work here anymore. I can't look at this garden and not see Jay, and Jay never existed." She picked up her box. "Wait," Daniel blocked her path. "Don't quit. This is your garden. My mother loved you. She wouldn't want you to leave." "Your mother was honest," Lily said, tears finally spilling over. "She didn't wear a mask." She stepped around him. "Keep your money, Mr. Bradford, and keep your roses. I hope they survive the frost, because I won't be here to save them." She walked away. Daniel watched her go. He stood in the middle of the garden that had been his sanctuary. Without her, it was just a patch of dirt and dying flowers. He looked at the rose bush they had saved together. He kicked the dirt violently. "Damn it!" he roared. CEO office, 10 a.m. The office was a glass cage in the sky. Daniel sat at the head of the massive conference table. On one side sat his father, looking smug. On the other side sat Charles Thorne, Vanessa's father. Lawyers were shuffling papers. "The merger papers are finalized," William announced, sliding a heavy document toward Daniel. "Sign here, here, and here. The wedding date is set for next month at the plaza." Daniel picked up the gold fountain pen. It felt heavy, like a shackle. He looked at the contract. Bradford and Thorne, a $1 billion union. He looked at his father. William was smiling. It was the first time Daniel had seen him smile in years. "You did good, son," William said. "Your mother would be proud." Proud. The word echoed in Daniel's head. "She told me once that this garden was her escape. Former husband. From the business." Lily's voice. His mother hadn't been proud. She had been trapped. She had died lonely, waiting for a son who was too busy chasing his father's approval to come home. And now Daniel was doing the exact same thing. He was marrying a woman he didn't love, to run a company that made him sick, all to please a man who only saw him as an asset. Daniel looked at the pen. He looked at his reflection in the polished table. He saw a stranger. "No," Daniel whispered. "Excuse me?" Charles Thorne asked, frowning. "I said no," Daniel said, louder. He capped the pen. He tossed it onto the table. It slid across the mahogany and fell to the floor. William's smile vanished. "Daniel, what are you doing?" "I'm breaking the cycle." Daniel stood up. He buttoned his jacket. "I'm not signing the merger, and I am certainly not marrying Vanessa." The room erupted. "You can't do this!" Charles Thorne shouted, slamming his hand down. "We have a verbal agreement. The press release is already out." "Retract it," Daniel said calmly. "You will ruin this family." William stood up, his face purple with rage. "If you walk out that door, Daniel, I will cut you off. I will strip you of the CEO title. I will freeze your assets. You will have nothing." Daniel looked at his father. He thought about the penthouse, the private jets, the servants who feared him. Then he thought about the taste of iced tea under the willow tree. He thought about the blister on his thumb. He thought about Lily telling him he wasn't terrible. I already have nothing, Daniel said. You took my life, Dad. You took Mom's life. You're not taking mine anymore. He reached into his pocket. He pulled out the company ID badge. He dropped it on the table. I quit. You're making a mistake. William screamed as Daniel walked to the door. You're a Bradford. You don't know how to survive without money. Daniel opened the door. He looked back one last time. I know how to dig, Daniel said. I'll be fine. He walked out. He took the elevator down to the lobby. He walked past the security guards who saluted him. He walked out onto the busy street. He loosened his tie. He breathed in the smoggy city air. He was unemployed. He was disinherited. He was technically homeless. And he felt lighter than air. The next day, rainy afternoon, it was pouring rain. Lily was sitting on her couch, wrapped in a blanket, watching a sad movie and eating ice cream straight from the tub. Her phone buzzed. It was a news alert. Breaking news. Bradford heir rejects billion-dollar merger, cancels wedding to Vanessa Thorne. Lily dropped her spoon. She grabbed the phone. In a shocking turn of events, Daniel Bradford stormed out of the boardroom yesterday. Sources say he has resigned as CEO. Effective immediately. Her heart skipped a beat. He did it. He actually did it. But why? Was it for her? Or was he just having a mental breakdown? Suddenly there was a knock at her door. Lily froze. She lived in a rough neighborhood. Nobody knocked unless it was the landlord asking for rent or a lost delivery guy. She walked to the door. She looked through the peephole. She gasped. Standing in the hallway, dripping wet, was Daniel, but he wasn't wearing a tuxedo, and he wasn't wearing his J disguise. He was wearing a simple gray hoodie and jeans. He was holding a potted plant wrapped in plastic to protect it from the rain. Lily opened the door. Hi, Daniel said. He was shivering. What are you doing here? Lily asked, clutching the doorframe. How did you find me? HR records, Daniel admitted sheepishly. I broke in before I quit. Sorry. That's creepy. You quit? I did. He held out the plant. It was a rose bush, but not just any rose bush. It was a Madame Hardy, the one they had saved together. He had dug it up. I stole this too, Daniel said. I figured it didn't belong to the estate. It belonged to the gardener who saved it. Lily looked at the rose, then at him. He looked exhausted. He had dark circles under his eyes. He looked like he had lost $1 billion. Why, Daniel? She whispered. Because you were right, he said. I was choosing to be miserable, and I don't want to be miserable anymore. He took a step closer. He didn't try to touch her. He just looked at her with total vulnerability. I lied to you about who I was, Lily, and I am so sorry. I was a coward. Rainwater dripped from his nose. But I didn't lie about the other stuff. I didn't lie about how I felt in that garden. I didn't lie when I said I didn't have anyone. He took a deep breath. I'm not the CEO anymore. I don't have the mansion. I don't have the car. My dad cut my cards an hour ago. He shrugged, a small, hopeful smile playing on his lips. So, technically, I'm just a guy with some gardening experience looking for a job, and maybe a second chance. Lily looked at him. She saw the sacrifice he had made. He had burned his kingdom to the ground just to stand in her hallway with a stolen rose. The anger in her chest began to melt, replaced by that warm, dangerous feeling she had felt under the willow tree. You dug up a rose bush in the rain? She asked, fighting a smile. It was heavy, Daniel admitted. My back is killing me. You have terrible form, Lily scolded gently. I know. I need a teacher. He looked into her eyes. Are you hiring? Lily bit her lip. She looked at the man who had given up the world for her. She stepped back, opening the door wide. I can't pay you much, she said, but the coffee is free. Daniel's smile lit up the dim hallway. It was real. I'll take it. He stepped inside. Lily took the rose from him and set it on the table. Then she turned and grabbed the front of his soaking wet hoodie. And, Daniel? Yeah? If you ever lie to me again, I will bury you under the compost. Understood, he promised. She kissed him. It tasted like rain, second chances, and finally, truth. 1 year later, a beat-up white pickup truck pulled into the driveway. On the side, hand-painted in elegant green letters, it read, Eleanor's Landscapes. The driver's door opened with a creak. Daniel stepped out. He was unrecognizable. The pale, stressed CEO in the Italian suit was gone. In his place was a man, with a deep tan, calloused hands and a sun-bleached t-shirt that clung to his chest. He had a smudge of dirt on his cheek, and he looked alive. He walked around the truck and opened the passenger door. "Milady?" He bowed theatrically. Lily hopped out, laughing. She was holding a clipboard thick with invoices. "Don't milady me, partner," she teased, swatting his arm with the clipboard. "You undercharged Mrs. Gable for the mulching." "Again. She's 80 years old, Lily," Daniel defended, grabbing a stack of potting soil bags from the truck bed. "And she makes those cinnamon cookies you like. I accept payment in baked goods." "We can't pay the mortgage with cookies, Daniel. Watch me try." He hoisted 2 bags over his shoulder with an ease that would have terrified his old board of directors. They walked toward the house. It wasn't a mansion. It was a small, fixer-upper cottage with peeling yellow paint and a porch that leaned slightly to the left. But the garden, was a masterpiece. Every inch of the yard was blooming. Tulips, hydrangeas, peonies. And right in the center, thriving and strong, was the Madame Hardy rose bush he had stolen in the rain. Later that evening, they sat on the back porch, sharing a pizza out of the box. Daniel wiped tomato sauce from his lip. He looked at the sunset painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. "You know," he said, taking a sip of cheap beer. "My father called today." Lily froze, a slice of pizza halfway to her mouth. "William?" "Yeah. Apparently the merger with Thorne Industries fell through. Vanessa ran off with a polo player. Stock prices are down 15%. "Ouch," Lily winced. "Did he ask you to come back?" "He offered me the VP position," Daniel chuckled. "Said he was willing to forgive my little rebellion if I shaved and bought a new suit." Lily put the pizza down. She looked at him seriously. "And? Did you think about it?" Lily asked, though she was smiling. "It's a lot of money, Daniel." Daniel looked at the house. He looked at the new truck in the driveway and the stack of signed contracts for next month. They weren't billionaires, but they were building something real. "I told him I was busy," Daniel said calmly. "We're booked solid for 3 months, Lily. I'm making more now building gardens than I ever did destroying companies. And I sleep at night." He kissed the top of her head. "I didn't trade down, Lily. I traded up. Besides, I have something better than $1 billion. He reached into his pocket. He didn't pull out a velvet box from Tiffany's. He pulled out a small, simple wooden box. He had carved it himself. Lily sat up. Her heart started to race. "Daniel." He opened the box. Inside was a ring. It wasn't a diamond. It was a band of silver, intertwined with a thin vine of gold, shaped like a rose stem. "I made it," Daniel said, his voice shaking slightly. "It's not perfect. The soldering is a little messy on the side and—" "It's perfect," Lily whispered, tears filling her eyes. Daniel got down on one knee. The wood of the porch creaked beneath him. "Lily," he said, "a year ago, I was a ghost. I was living a life that wasn't mine. Then I met a girl who yelled at me for being late and taught me that you have to get your hands dirty to make something beautiful grow." He took her hand. His rough, warm hand engulfed hers. "I don't have an empire to give you. I have a truck with a bad transmission, a mortgage, and a lot of dirt. But I promise you, I will never lie to you. I will never leave you alone in the garden, and I will love you until every last petal falls." He looked into her hazel eyes. "Lily, will you marry the gardener?" Lily didn't hesitate. "Yes," she sobbed, tackling him in a hug that nearly knocked him off the porch. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. They kissed as the sun finally dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the garden they had built. Together. 2 weeks later, Daniel was knee-deep in a koi pond scrubbing algae off the rocks. "You missed a spot," Lily called out from the patio, where she was sketching a new landscape design. "I'm going to throw a frog at you," Daniel threatened, laughing. The client, Mrs. Higgins, a wealthy socialite who reminded Daniel vaguely of his old life, walked out onto the patio holding a tray of lemonade. She looked at Daniel, shirtless and sweaty in the pond. Then she looked at Lily, whose hair was a chaotic mess of curls and leaves. "You two work so hard," Mrs. Higgins noted, handing Lily a glass. "It's rare to see such dedication these days." "We love what we do," Lily smiled, looking at Daniel. Daniel climbed out of the pond, dripping wet. He accepted a towel from Lily, his fingers lingering on hers for a second too long. Mrs. Higgins watched the interaction. The chemistry between them was palpable. It fizzed in the air like static electricity. "You know," Mrs. Higgins adjusted her. "Pearls. My daughter is single. She's looking for a nice, hard-working man. She looked at Daniel appraisingly. Tell me, young man, you're very handsome. Are you single? Daniel paused, drying his face with the towel. He looked at Mrs. Higgins. Then he looked at Lily. Lily smirked. She remembered the day in the East Garden. She remembered the heartbreak of his answer back then. Daniel winked at her. He turned back to Mrs. Higgins, draping his arm around Lily's waist, pulling her muddy overalls against his wet chest. Are you married? Mrs. Higgins pressed, confused by the silence. Daniel smiled. It wasn't the fake corporate smile of a CEO. It was the wide, blinding smile of a man who had everything he ever wanted. He held up his left hand, where a simple silver band glinted in the sunlight. I wasn't yesterday, Daniel said, looking at Lily with adoration. But I am today. Mrs. Higgins blinked. Oh, I didn't realize. Congratulations. Thank you, Lily said, resting her head on his wet shoulder. I'm the lucky one. I got the best gardener in the world. And Daniel kissed her temple, ignoring the wealthy client, the algae and the past that felt a million miles away, got the rose. Daniel gave up a fortune to find a treasure that money can't buy. What about you? Would you choose a high-powered career or a simple life with your true love? Tell us your choice in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for more heartwarming stories. Thanks for watching.